I bought Shopify stocks when they were around $200 pre-stock split. And by the time I sold them, they were $1,200 per share. However, because it was in my I paid $0 in taxes that year.
Today's guest is Reni, the founder of Reni the Resource. She creates content on YouTube and shares practical tips on budgeting, saving, and investing.
Most immigrants and newcomers to Canada are great at saving. What they're not so good at is making that money grow.
How much do I need to start?
If you can order Uber Eats once a month, you can invest in the stock market. You can start with $25. You can start with even $1.
Is it for everybody?
I think that actually...
What's your take on protecting your income through insurance and such?
I think people think of life insurance as, okay, I'm preparing to die. People want to be flown back home to be buried.
Yes.
And I don't think people really know how much that costs.
How expensive that is.
If you find value after watching this video, please hit the like button and consider subscribing to this channel.
Yesterday, you made a really good announcement that I think is very fitting for the timing of this call, even though this call has been a long time coming. You made a really cool announcement on LinkedIn about the size of your investment account. And I think that that's a great place to start for like the context of this conversation. So you have a $400,000 nest egg investment account that you're building from the age of 18. Now, I want to ask the people, the viewers, raise your hand if you wish you could go back in time and put some money in an investment account when you were 18. I surely wish I did. I wasn't even in Canada at 18. Right? But Reni, you are a financial literacy educator, content creator, and of course, you've done well for yourself. And there's something that you talk about that I think is very important as to why we're having this conversation is that a lot of immigrants, we come to Canada, we definitely want to do well financially, but there's a gap between that want and the actual information and know-how to actually build wealth. And your parents definitely helped you to fill that gap. So today you are going to be your dad teaching the audience the things that your dad taught you to help you to build this amount of wealth at age 29, right? It's definitely a huge achievement. I congratulate you and welcome and thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me, Christina. I'm ready to be my dad. I'm excited to be my dad today.
Yes, perfect. So if you want to just kind of go back in time, give us a little bit of context. You started at 18, you bought your first investment property at 23 on the advice of your parents. Tell me a little bit about just your financial literacy journey up to that point.
Yeah, so I moved to Canada when I was 4 years old from England. I was born in England and I moved here when I was 4 years old. And from the time I was 4 years old, my dad was like, these children need to be good with money. My sister and I, we need to be good with money. So I started learning about money literally at 4 years old when aunties and uncles would come over to the house and give us gifts that are typically money. My parents would say, okay, half of this money has to go into your bank account, for example. And I had a debit card when I was 4 years old. Like I knew what money was at a very early age. And that kept going and going until I was about, I think 16 is when I got my first job. And when I was 16, my dad was like, okay, you're making good money. Now you have to actually start putting it away on a regular basis. And because I was so used to putting away 50% of whatever I got, my allowance, whatever it was very easy for me to continue to do this now that I'm making more money than I ever was. It was minimum wage, but like it was more money than I ever had before.
Yeah.
And then when I turned 18, I went to university. I was doing full-time school and then also had a part-time job throughout university.
Nice.
And I also had internships in summer as well. So that was, of course, the most money that I've ever made. I think my first internship was like $35,000, something along those lines. And I was like, wow,
Nice.
This is a lot of money. Yeah. For a university student, right? Same thing. I decided to put half of that money away, even more than half, I think at that time, away into not just the savings account, but now it was my investing account because I was now over the age of 18 and I could start investing. So I started investing in the stock market at that time. We can go into detail about it, but I was investing in the stock market. And every 2 weeks, I would just put more money into different stocks. So my dad taught me about the stock market. He sat me down and like taught me about safe stocks versus more risky stocks and which ones I should look into. And then by the time I was 23 years old, that portfolio had grown to about $60,000. And my dad was like, "Oh, how's it doing?" And I was like, "Oh, it's doing well. I have $60,000." As a 23-year-old, I'm like, "That's amazing." I think I was 22 at the time when he asked me. I was like, "That's amazing." And he was like, "Okay, it's now time to move your money into another asset that's even more stable." And I was like, why would I do that? Like, I love
Yeah.
seeing this money in my account. And my dad was like, no, you can always regrow your investment portfolio, but it's a good time to purchase a house. So that was 2019. I put a deposit down on a house. And by 2020 is when it was a pre-construction property. So I closed on the house in 2020. And that started my journey of sharing online about how I was able to buy a house at the age of 23. So yeah, that's a little bit about my journey. I'm sure we'll get into each part in depth, but like that's how I have been able to grow my portfolio. And since 2020, I have continued to invest every 2 weeks and I've rebuilt my portfolio to over 400K. So yeah.
Nice, nice, nice. And there's something very important, I think, that you said in your switch from saving to investing. And I think probably I'm probably going to go out on a limb for immigrants and say that we are kind of savers, right? So we kind of will save money. And because we don't necessarily have access to the kind of credit system, but not back then anyway. Now it's a little bit different, but back then the kind of credit and the debts that people are just like ready to give to you and hand out, like, here's some free money, not go spend it. And so there's saving, but then there's investing, and switching that mindset or even that strategy can make a big difference, right? And I'll give you a little bit of
Huge.
my story, right? I came here at 21 thereabout, and I was a saver, right? So I had some savings. I'd worked in the US over the summers doing summer jobs and stuff like that. So I had nice, good currency compared to our Jamaican dollar.
Yeah.
And you save it and you save it and you save it, and you come here and you do that too. You save it. And it wasn't until I was a permanent resident, which was about 2.5 years in, when I became a permanent resident, that the bank finally said something to me about a TFSA. Because before that, none of that information. Of course, there's that survival mode that we're in as immigrants, trying to get through to that next phase of immigration. But while we're in that zone, it's okay to invest a little bit or put some money away or grow some money. So let's talk a little bit about that switch between saving and investing and moving from survival mode to trying to thrive, even though you're still trying to survive.
Yeah, I think as you said, most immigrants and newcomers to Canada are great at saving. Like they know how to put some money away, but
Uh-huh.
what they're not so good at is making that money grow. And my dad always says that your job is to make money, but then your money's job is to make more money for you. So I think we are used to hustling or, if we need more, we work more. But unfortunately, in this country, yes, that can work sometimes. But if you truly want to build wealth and actually retire comfortably, we know the bills are coming. So we need actual money that is growing for us instead of us having to work for money for the rest of our life. So investing, for those that don't know, is when you put your money in an asset that is going to grow at a faster rate than your savings, essentially. And it can be a venture. There's so many ways to invest. There is a business. You can purchase a business, invest in that, and it grows. You can buy real estate. You can buy stocks. You can buy crypto. There's so many different ways to invest. But personally, I think for newcomers, especially, we either focus on saving or I need to buy a house. Like there's no, there's no in between.
Right?
Yeah. And I get it because as you said, a lot of people are in that survival mode, and a house signifies stability to a lot of people. It signifies that I have a little piece of Canada that I can call home. And I understand that, but it's very expensive to buy real estate in this country. And a lot of people buy real estate that they truly can't afford. And they do that because it's oh, you know, I just want a piece of Canada to buy home. So instead, I think a more accessible way to invest would be through the stock market.
Right.
And the stock market is essentially when you are becoming a part owner in companies that are publicly traded. So think of huge companies like Microsoft, Apple, Tesla, Nvidia, Costco, Walmart, all of these companies. There's not just one person who owns it. There are actually millions of people who own these companies. And you can actually become one of those people very easily by buying shares or buying stocks of this company. So there's nothing wrong with saving. Saving has a place for your
It has
short-term
its
goals.
place. Yep.
Yes, But if you want to invest, if you want to actually retire one day, if you want to be able to leave wealth for your future generations, if you just want to be comfortable, then you need to invest because inflation is eroding your savings essentially.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if you could give maybe a practical tip, because I mean, I had somebody ask me recently, how much do I need to start? And I feel like them forgetting or thinking that you need to have like a large sum to start because like $1 compounds, $20
Yes.
compounds, like any amount of money compounds. And like you did mention about, okay, saving has its place because yes, people should have like emergency funds. They need to have accessible funds. When monies are invested, they're not necessarily accessible today in this moment. It can be, but it could be down. There's different things. Savings has its place 100%. And so if somebody were to say, okay, I'm new, I want to start, I do want to ask you too, though, for the average person, right? Because I started my trading journey in 2020. I think a lot of people started in the COVID, right?
Yes.
Day trading and stuff like that. Is it for everybody? Is it for everybody to go and set up an account and just get into stocks, understanding volatility and choosing which stock and when to enter? Like if it drops, should I exit? Would you consider that the average person should be doing that?
Okay, so to answer your first question, you don't need a lot to start. You can start with $25. You can start with even $1 because of the platforms we have in Canada, and also in other countries as well. So you don't actually need a lot to start. That's a misconception that many people have. And remember, I started when I was making like what was it, $9 or $11 an hour. Like I was making minimum wage. So you do not need a lot to start. If you can order Uber Eats once a month, you can invest in the stock market.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you don't need a lot to start investing in stock market. And to your second question, I think that actually, yes, everybody should consider investing in the stock market, but there are different ways that you can access the stock market according to your risk tolerance. So I don't think anyone needs to avoid the stock market, but you need to first know yourself before you get into the stock market. So let me break that down. You can invest with somebody else. For example, somebody can buy the stocks on your behalf and they can manage your entire portfolio on your behalf. This is called a mutual fund, and you essentially give your money to this fund manager. They will purchase stocks and different securities inside of a basket, and you will buy that. So that's a pretty easy and accessible way to invest, and that's what most people start with.
Yeah.
I am not the biggest fan of mutual funds only because of the fees that are charged for mutual funds. They can be pretty high. And yeah, but I think if you're choosing between not investing and giving your money to a mutual fund manager, then just give your money to the mutual fund manager because at least your money is going to be growing at a great rate. All you would do when you work with them is that you tell them, okay, this is my timeline and my time horizon. This is my risk tolerance. And then they will craft a fund for you. So that is the first way. I would say the least risk. I don't know if it's the least risky, but it's the least hands-on that you have to be with your investment. The next way would be an ETF. An ETF is an exchange traded fund. So similar to a mutual fund, but the mutual fund is actively managed, meaning that fund manager is going in on a regular basis to change what's in your portfolio. Whereas a ETF is passively managed, meaning that you are buying something and it's not really changing too much over the year. Maybe once a year, twice a year, they're going in and updating things. But like for the most part, they're not really changing what is in the fund. And because they are not doing too much work, they actually are going to charge you a much lower rate. So a mutual fund fee could be like 1%, 2%. Whereas the fee for your ETF could be like 0.2%. So you could see there's a big difference, and it may not seem like a big difference, but if you have lots of money there,
on $400,000, it's a big difference.
It's a big difference. Yeah. Even on $10,000, like you will see the difference between the two amounts. So, if you are willing to buy a fund and do the work yourself to just buy the fund, it's still managed by somebody else, but you just have to do the work and purchase it. Then that is a good alternative. And this is what I suggest for like the majority of people. If you want to take it a step further and you're ready to do research, you have the desire, the knowledge, and the time to do research about different companies, then you could do what is called individual, like self-directed investing, where you're actually picking individual stocks. This one is a strategy that, yes, can make you a lot of money. However, it can be it's a bit more risky because let's say you invest in Apple and Apple decides to crash and burn tomorrow, your money is gone because all your money is in one company. Whereas if you buy a fund, let's say you buy a fund that has the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is the 500 largest companies in the United States. So, it's very unlikely that all 500 companies are going to do badly. And when a company is doing badly, they actually just take it out of the fund and then they replace it with, a company that fits within the criteria that they want. So, that is why I think that individual stocks are not for everyone. They're not even for the majority of people. They're for people who, again, have the time, the knowledge, and the dedicate and the passion for actually researching stocks. Personally, I don't invest a lot in individual stocks because I don't have the time. Right now, I'm trying to build my business. I'm just focused on building my business. So I just don't have the time or energy to do that. But I will say, you can make a lot of money there. No one can deny that. But where there's big risk, there's big returns, but there's also the opportunity to lose all your money.
The upside is equal to the downside.
Yes, exactly. So to answer your question, everyone should consider investing in the stock market, but you just need to decide what method works best for you. And there's also one in between mutual funds and ETFs. There's a robo-advisor. So if you wanted to use, it's basically a robot or an algorithm that will buy the stocks on your behalf or buy the ETFs on your behalf. And they charge a slightly higher fee than ETFs, but a lower fee than mutual funds. So that's another option. I do have a robo-advisor portfolio that I started 3 years ago now, just to show my followers that you can also do this. And it's up 30 or 40%. So it's not doing too shabby.
Nice. Okay. All right. So lots of options there. And I agree with you. I mean, it's not a one size fits all because people have to do a risk assessment, and a money manager or an intermediary between you and the money manager will help you to do that risk assessment. I am also a financial broker. So then these are the kind of questions I would ask somebody, if it's up this much and down this much, will your belly bottom drop out? Yes. Or can you manage it? And if not, then you do something more risk averse, I guess, depending on your risk profile. But definitely, like Reni said, by the way, this is not financial advice, #disclaimer, right? You're sharing your, of course, experience and the work that you do coaching others in your accountability group. And definitely get some advice before you make any decisions of jumping into the market or doing anything, right? So Reni, you did talk a little bit about your parents. Your dad specifically, but both your parents were very instrumental in dropping those money lessons. And you guys had a good fireside chat at your last event. If you were to pull out 3 top pieces of advice that you got from your dad to help you to get where you are right now, what do you think those would be?
First piece of advice that he gave me was pay yourself first. So what that means is that every single time you get paid from your job, your 9 to 5, your shift work, whatever you're doing, you then take that money and then you put it towards future you. That could be towards your savings or your investing. I think the normal thing to do is actually you spend your money on everything, whatever you need to buy that month. And then after you've spent it, then you save after. And that could be $50 or sometimes to maybe a good month and you're like, okay, I have $500, but the money may fluctuate month over month. Instead, my dad says, okay, we know that you can comfortably afford to put away $200 a month. Automate that so that every time you get paid, the $200 comes out and goes into your investing account. Trust me, that has been the biggest game changer because I can be motivated and then suddenly I have no motivation again, and then the next week or next 2 months, I'm motivated again. Let me start investing. But instead I've automated it so that it happens whether I like
thinking
it or
out
not.
of it.
Exactly. So the first tip would be pay yourself first. I guess the second one would actually be automation. I automate everything. I've automated my savings and my investments and now even my credit card payments because I do travel a lot. I'm building my business. Again, I don't have time to be in the weeds and I don't want to make any mistakes. So what happens on payday, for example, is my money comes into my checking account. From my checking account, it goes into my 4 or 5 different sinking funds that I have for my different savings goals. And it also goes into my investing account. And then it also automatically purchases the ETFs that I want to purchase. So mine is fully automated. Like, I don't try to time the market and see, oh, is the stock down today? Is the ETF up to, I don't have time for that. I just have like, it's all automated for me and it's working. Even when I don't feel like working, it's all working for me. So that would be tip number 2 that he's given me. Tip number 3, one thing he always taught me is that, yes, you can budget your way. You can try to budget as much as you want, but the one thing that will help you the most is actually increasing your income. And I think most people don't focus on that. They focus on like, okay, I'm making this much. Let me try and make it work as much as I can. But the thing that will help you invest the most or like get the most wealthy is finding practical ways to increase your income. That could be from a side hustle. That could be from job hopping. That could be from optimizing for a good degree that will get you the job that will pay you better. But one thing about me, like when I was working in corporate, I left my job every year. I was not staying. There was no loyalty to the companies. I was optimizing for the money. And because I was able to increase my salary significantly, it allowed me to invest more every single year. So I would say he taught me to optimize for the money. These companies are not loyal to you. They will lay you off whenever they want to. So we should not have loyalty to them.
I like that because our parents' generation is different, right? Like my grandfather, for example, he worked for the one company until he retired. My dad did the same thing, maybe 2 companies until, retirement. And when I was working, so my background before being in this world is in project management and construction. And I would do projects for this kind of construction company, and I would talk to this guy, Jesse, right? And Jesse's working with company XYZ, right? Next year, Jesse comes back for a new project and Jesse's with company QRS. And I'm like, Jesse, you're moving around because sometimes it's easier to move up when you move across, right? Because it's getting promoted from within, and that's not a strategy that I don't think a lot of us come in knowing. I observed it in the construction world and I'm like, okay, it's time to leave. So that's really good advice, practical.
Yeah, and I would say especially like I understand that as a newcomer to Canada, so again, you crave stability. So it's hard to say, okay, I just got this job that I've been praying for and now I'm going to go and hop to a new job. I get it. But again, these companies are not loyal to you. And a lot of people only realize that when they have actually lost their job or been laid off, right? So I would say always keep your options open. I'm not telling you to leave every year like I did, but keep your options open and be willing to pivot at any time because sometimes they will force you to pivot, So be willing to pivot.
What's one thing you wish you knew before coming to Canada? Question in several of my episodes and talking to different people. I post on LinkedIn, all that stuff. And one common one that came through in the world of finances and such was, I wish I knew about TFSA sooner or RRSP sooner or all of these, benefits that we have in Canada sooner because you don't know what you don't know, And like I said, I didn't know about the TFSA until now I'm a permanent resident. I have to go to the bank and update it. And they're like, oh, here, you want this? And so they're before that, they didn't approach me for that. And as a temporary resident, you can open a TFSA, right? Of course, if you leave Canada, the rules kind of change. So it's just knowing that, get some advice regarding that. But let's talk a little bit about these beneficial kind of accounts, TFSAs, RRSPs, the difference between the two, FHSAs, which is relatively new. And how immigrants, newcomers, regardless of the stage that they're at, right? You're a student, you're now permanent, you just got your PR, whatever the case is, how you can take advantage of these kinds of accounts.
Yes, I love that you said that temporary residents can access them because most people don't know that. They think they have to wait till they are PR, but yes, you can access these accounts. So the first account that we have is the TFSA. This is the tax-free savings account, and this is one of my favorite accounts in Canada because of the tax-free growth. And I will say that these are all the names have savings in it, like TFSA tax-free savings account, but most people don't know that you can actually invest in these accounts as well. So the TFSA, again, you can put cash in the account and you can buy stocks, you can buy mutual funds, you can buy ETFs, you can buy gold. I think you can buy, there's so many different things that you can buy inside of your TFSA. And what the benefit is that the growth is tax free. So let's say I'll use my personal example. I bought Shopify stocks when they were around $200 pre-stock split. This was back in 2015, 2016, I believe.
Oof.
Yeah. And then
where's the time machine?
I know. Right? And by the time I sold them, they were $1,200 per share. So that means that they increased by $1,000 each. And I had a lot of them. So it was a good amount of money. I took that and it turned into $60,000 essentially. That's what I used to put the down payment on my house. Typically, you would actually have to pay taxes on that money that you've taken out of your TFSA. I mean, out of your investing account, because it is income, right? You made income, you pay tax on the income. In Canada, we have tax on everything. However, because it was in my TFSA, I paid $0 in taxes that year or at all. So I think people don't understand the benefit of it. A lot of people save in this account, which is great, but your savings are growing at like what, 1%, 2%. The tax-free growth is, I don't know, it's not doing too much, but if you can invest in it and grow your investing account significantly, then all the growth that you have is tax-free.
It's yours.
I highly, highly, highly recommend opening the TFSA. I think this is the account that most people should start with because it's the most flexible. You can take your money out of the account at any time you want. You can use the money for any purpose. If you want to go on vacation, if you want to buy a house, if you want to go to a wedding, pay for your own wedding, whatever it is, you can use the money in your TFSA for that, which makes it unmatched compared to all the other accounts. So I would say your TFSA is the GILT, one of my favorite accounts, and the one that you should open if you are a newcomer. The next account that we have is the RRSP. The RRSP is the Registered Retirement Savings or Investing Plan. And in this account, same thing, you can buy all the same things that I mentioned earlier. And most people, their first way to access this is through your employer. So typically, if you work at a company some companies offer this. They will offer a RRSP match, meaning that they will take a percentage of your paycheck. So let's say it's like 3% that they will match. If you contribute 3% of your pre-tax paycheck to the RSP, they will also match it and maybe give you 3% as well, meaning that you just doubled your money without doing anything, and it's free. It's not tax free, but it is free money that your company has given you. So this is the beauty of it. The goal of the RSP is that you can prepare for retirement, because what people don't know, and I think like this, I need to do a whole video on this, but what people don't know is that yes, we're contributing to Canada Pension Plan with all your paychecks, but the average Canada Pension Plan payout right now per month is, I think it's the max, not the average, is $1,000 something dollars. Less, it's not high.
And the average is about between $700 and $900.
Yes. So most people nobody can afford to live on $1,000 a month. It's not realistic in this economy. So you need to prepare for your retirement outside of Canada Pension Plan. Like it's just not enough. So because of that, again, that's why we utilize our RRSP. How it works is when you put money into it, it lowers your taxable income for this year or whatever year you want to apply the deduction to. But let's say you are making $70,000 a year, and let's say you put $10,000 into your RSP this year, you will actually only be taxed on $60,000 for the year. Basically, your taxable income has lowered by $10,000 for the year. And because if you are a salaried employee, your taxes are already coming out in your paycheck. That means you've technically overpaid taxes and you'll get a nice tax refund come tax time. So it lowers your taxes this year. However, let's say that $10,000 you invested for the next 20 years. Let's say it grows to 20 something thousand dollars. When you take that money out, you will pay taxes on the funds when you take it out. But the idea is that right now you're in your highest earning years. You're at a higher tax bracket. And when you take it out, you'll be at a lower tax bracket, meaning that you'll pay less taxes than if you paid them up front. So that's the idea with the RSP. It works for most people who are making less in retirement because, most people are making less in retirement. But if you're not, then maybe it's not the most favorable account. However, I don't think we should discount it because you still get years and years of tax-free growth. So I don't see the harm in utilizing an RSP unless maybe you want to leave the country and you don't plan on retiring here. Maybe that might be a reason that you prioritize the other accounts first. But if you plan to retire, you need money to retire. So you need to prepare for it. Yes. And then the next account that we have is the FHSA. So the FHSA is the First Home Savings Account. savings or investing account. Same thing, you can invest in it. And this account came out in 2023, and it was the government's attempt at helping us prepare for our first home that we are purchasing in Canada. So it's supposed to be the first home that you live in, not the first home that, like if you have a rental property like I do, it can't be used for a rental property. It can only be used for a home that you are living in.
Yeah.
And how it works is it's kind of the perfect combination of the TFSA and the RRSP. When you put money in, it actually reduces your taxes for this year. And then when you take money out, it's actually tax free. So it's literally the perfect account. Like one of my favorite accounts as well. The only
You have to buy
bad
the
thing
house.
about it is that you have to buy the house with the money. Yeah. So
And the
if you
house that
don't
you're going to live in.
Yes, that part. So for me, I have a rental property. So technically under the FHSA, I am considered a first home buyer, which is great. However, I'm considered a first home buyer, which is amazing. But if you have a house right now, but you haven't, let's say you bought a house and then you decide to leave that house 4 years later, you're considered a first home buyer again under this plan, which is amazing. So, that's one of my best or my favorite accounts. Again, you have to buy the house in order to use this money. If you don't end up buying a house, you have two options. You can take the money out and just pay taxes on it at your marginal tax rate. But maybe the better thing to do would be to just move the money into your RRSP. And then again, you'll pay taxes when you take the money out of it. So the tax-free growth only comes when you buy a principal residence that you're going to live in. Yeah.
Yes.
And we also have one more account, actually, the RESP.
RESP.
So if you did have so if you do have children and you want to prepare for their post-secondary education, you can utilize the RESP to do that. So for example, my parents started investing for us in our RESP, my sister and I in our RESP when we were children. And then if you put in $2,500 per year, the government will give you an extra $500 on top of that. I think that's about $208 per month. So parents, if you can afford to do that, it would be a great thing that you can do. My parents were able to do this, and I was able to go to school like debt free. I didn't have any student loans for my first degree. Well, I only have one degree, but my sister did her undergraduate degree, and then she also did law school, and it was all paid for by the RESP. So, I highly, 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 highly recommend.
Yes. And there is also the RDSP, which is Registered Disability Savings Plan for anybody who has children or living with a disability. Can definitely take advantage of those as well. And I think one important thing to kind of note about these is that there are contribution limits. So if you have $1 million, you can't just get up and say, I'm putting $1 million in there so it can grow tax-free. It's not how it works. I know, right? Right? But each year has contribution rooms. And as an immigrant, it kind of unlocks when you are kind of permanent here. But it's fine that, you start to build up your savings and all that within the contribution room. And I think with the FHSA, the contribution room doesn't start until you open the account. So even if you just open the account today with $50 just to unlock the contribution room for 2025, that'd be a good idea, because otherwise then your contribution room doesn't start until 2026 or whenever you open it. But you want to open it, and then each year the contribution room will add and add. Right?
Yes,
so of course.
But one thing I see people doing with their FHSA, because the FHSA works a little differently than the other accounts. So with your TFSA, it just keeps growing and growing. And if you don't use the contribution room, it still continues to grow. Whereas with your FHSA, if you don't use your contribution room, you actually lose your contribution room. So let's say you can only afford to contribute like $500 this year out of your $8,000 contribution room that you would get to your FHSA this year. That's fine. But then next year, you're able to carry over a maximum of $8,000 each year. So next year, you'll have like $8,000 plus the 7.5. But then the next year, let's say you still don't contribute, you're only able to carry over $8,000. Yeah. So I feel like some people open it a bit prematurely because they think they'll be able to contribute, but they're not actually able to contribute anything. So they're kind of losing your contribution room.
Okay, so get together with your agent or advisor or whatever the case is to make these decisions wisely. This is for information only, of course. Reni, now you have an accountability group. I've met people actually outside of connecting with you. I've met two other people who said, I'm like, oh yeah, I know Reni. And then they're part of your contribution. They're part of your accountability group, which I think is cool. I love networking. It's so magical.
Cool. I love it.
Yes, and I think that's what I love about it is that, of course, it's the accountability part. It's kind of just helping people to stay on track, not fall into debt. There was somebody that you interviewed on your channel who, the bank gave him a credit card and he racked up about $23,000 worth of debt. So before we
Mhm.
get to the accountability group, let's talk about that. Some of the mistakes that newcomers are making, financial mistakes that down the road really, really, really penalize them, not just in having to pay it back, but in their credit scores and such. So you can
Mm.
probably share a little bit about that story from that person and anything else that's, about that.
Yeah. So I have a podcast called Don't Go Broke Trying, and on there I interview people who may have gone broke, but now they're they're doing a bit better. So Hugh Sono, he's one of my good friends, and he's one of the people that I interviewed. He actually moved from Jamaica from Jamaica to he's Nigerian, but he lived in Jamaica, and then he moved from Jamaica to Canada. And the first thing he did was get a credit card because that's what they offer you, you know. So he got a credit card on campus, and he thought it was free money. So he thought it was free money and he used it like it was free money, meaning that he wasn't really paying it back until he realized how much interest they're actually charging you. When you have a credit card, typically you are charged or it's interest free for, I think it's a 21-day period. You have like a grace period with your credit card. But then once that billing date comes and they tell you that this amount is due by like November 1st, that means you have to pay it back in full by November 1st. If you do not pay it back in full by November 1st, then you are charged what is called purchase interest. And that typically starts at 19.99%, which is very expensive. Again, it doesn't seem like a big number, but like when you compound that and credit card interest compounds on a daily basis.
Daily.
So it's a bit crazy. Like I've seen people who have like a $3,000 balance, but if they're paying it back at the same rate that they're paying it back right now, it will actually take them like, I think it was 6 years to pay it back, and they'll pay an additional $4,000 in interest on top of it. So it gets a bit wild. So my tips for people who are looking to open a credit card is, one, don't be scared of credit. Credit is not a bad thing. It's just about using it responsibly and understanding the consequences of using it poorly. That's what you need to know. Second, I would say use it as if it was a debit card. Most of us come from countries where maybe the credit system is not too established and you're mostly relying on debit. Continue to use those same habits that you had in your home country, but use it on a credit card. So, for example, if there's a $500 purchase that you want to make, if you were back home and you didn't have $500, guess what? You're not buying you're not buying the thing until you can save up for that. Same thing in Canada. The credit card may make you feel like you can buy it because maybe you have a $1,000 limit, but remember, you have to pay it back on time and in full by the due date. So personally, I use mine like a debit card. If I cannot pay it back in full by the end of by the due date, I do not charge it on my
You can't
credit card
afford it.
until I,
Yeah.
exactly. You can't afford it, essentially. So, those would be my top two tips. And then a third one would just be, you don't need 10 different credit cards. You only really need to have one or two credit cards. I would say start off with one actually, so that you can get into the habit of using it responsibly and paying it off on time. You do not, like, I see a lot of people who, oh, this card is offering me travel points and this card is offering me cash back and I'm going to get groceries here. And yes, those things are all good, but like not when you're in debt. It doesn't make sense because the debt, again, it compounds at a very crazy rate. And then it's kind of negating all of the points that you're getting. Oh, you got $100 of free groceries, but you're paying $500 of interest. Like what's the benefit, you know? So, those are some things that I encourage people to look into.
Perfect. And your parents, so your parents came here
In
25
2000.
years ago.
Yes.
Okay, right? So they came as immigrants from Nigeria. Where
They
did they
actually
get
came,
there? Oh, no. They
yeah,
didn't come
so
from
they actually
Nigeria.
moved to England,
Right.
first, and then we moved from England to Nigeria, from England to Canada.
Okay, got it. Where did they get their money wisdom from?
So my dad said that when he moved to England, he realized that he doesn't know nothing about money. Cause same thing, he grew up knowing about saving. He was taught, he was a diligent saver, he knew, but when you move to, he's a lawyer, my parents are both lawyers, but when you move to a new country, maybe you're working not a fancy cushy job anymore. You are starting from ground zero. And he was like, am I going to be doing this hustling for the rest of my life? I actually need to learn how to make my money work for me. I need to understand the credit system. I need to do this and do that. So we actually started to read books. While he was waiting for the bus in London, he would go to the bookstore, read the books for free, and then leave. And when the bus came, and that's how he started to learn about investing in the stock market. And then there were two brothers that were like doing seminars. They came to the UK and they were teaching people about how to invest in the stock market. They're called the Motley Fool brothers. So they have a platform
I
called
know
the
Motley
Motley
Fool.
Fool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this was like 30 years ago or so. And yeah, that's when my dad learned about it. And then he decided to start investing. 30 years ago, he bought Amazon. Like, that's crazy, right? So he
Yes.
bought Amazon stocks 30 years ago. And now it's been able to, he was able to teach us. He's taught his siblings. He's taught like lots of his friends. And he also has a YouTube page and an Instagram page now where he teaches people as well. So he has been able to teach so many people and probably change the trajectory of their financial lives. So yeah.
Yeah, amazing, amazing, amazing. And then the last little content pillar I think that I'll bring up here, which is something that I think, and now okay. So Hurricane Melissa just swept through Jamaica, right? And somebody mentioned to me about, there's a lot of property damage and stuff like that. And a lot of people don't have insurance. Okay, it's not a thing. If you have a
Yeah.
mortgage, maybe, right? And so this is just not necessarily to talk about property insurance, but insurance in general, because there's so many things that come up, death, critical illness, and stuff that people are not prepared for. And then we end up having to send money back. You talk a bit about that, sending remittances back home. Let's talk about protection a little bit, because it's nice to have a huge investment account, have some money and nest egg, so to speak. But one casualty or one bad accident could bleed into that and all the work that you're doing if there's not proper like income protection. What's your take on protecting your income through insurance and such?
I think that every single person should have insurance. And as you said, there are many different types of insurance. There's life insurance, there's critical illness insurance, disability insurance, car insurance. What else? I don't know. But there are lots of different types of insurance. And I think oftentimes we protect our home, we
Yeah.
protect our car. Some of us even have like Apple Care on our phone. We protect our phone. But it's wild that we don't protect ourselves. Like we're not thinking about ourselves like that. So I think, a lot of people think insurance is a scam. Like, oh, I'm paying for this over and over and over, and then there's no benefit. But you don't want to know the benefit, actually. You actually don't want to know the benefit. Because, for example, in our family, my mom, I was very young, but my mom took my sister and I to the US to visit her sister. And my mom actually fell down the stairs, broke her leg, like her femur. And obviously we know that that is a big bone, and it's actually the largest bone in your body, and that can take you 6+ months to recover from. So she had just quit. She was doing contract work. So she had just finished one contract, was going to start another one. She couldn't start the new contract. Her kids are in private school at this time. Like it's just a lot that's going on, and it could literally have financially destroyed our family.
Yeah.
However, my dad had told us right before, you guys can't go to the US without travel insurance.
Yes.
I think I can't remember the price, but I know it was 30 or less than $30, I believe, and that is what saved us. Like
Yes.
they did a emergency plane from the US back to Canada. They flew us private basically back to Canada. The level of care that we got is something that you can't afford that. You cannot afford that, especially as newcomers to a country, because we were very new in the country at the time. So I that's why I don't play about travel. I don't pay about insurance in general. I have life insurance. I have travel insurance. I have car insurance. I have my property. Like, I do not play at all, because I don't want to hear any story. Okay. So I think that people should look into it more, and especially life insurance. I think people think of life insurance as, okay,
Juju.
I'm preparing to die.
Juju
like
in your life.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're preparing to die. People have the same thought of wills and stuff. But
Yes.
again, my parents are lawyers, so I've seen people be financially ruined by the fact that
Yes.
one parent has passed away, and now what do you do? Like, what do you do in that situation? The income that you were depending on to raise your children is now gone,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard to access their
Yes.
bank accounts for sometimes. At time, it can be so financially devastating that we cannot underestimate. I cannot emphasize the importance of getting life insurance. Just so you know, I didn't really explain it, but if you do not know what life insurance is, it's essentially a payout that you will get if you pass away, or your family will get
Mm-hmm.
if you pass away. And it's a good way to make sure that you're not leaving a burden on your family, but instead
On your
you're leaving a
family.
legacy. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
there are two main types of life insurance. There's term life insurance, and then there is permanent life insurance. Permanent life insurance means that no matter when you die, like if you die at 50 or 101, your family will be paid out a lump sum when you pass away. So that is the first one. It is typically much more expensive, I would say, than term life insurance. Term life insurance, I have term life insurance. It's less than $40 a month. Basically, it lasts for until I'm 75 years old. If I pass away, God forbid, during those 75 or during that year until I'm 75, it will give my family a lump sum payout of $500,000. That is enough for them to, pay for my mortgage. That is enough for them to cover all my last expenses when you pass away. And also my partner, for example, like, your partner is depending on your income as well. Even if they are making good income, they're also depending on it to maintain their standard of living. So that will give him a payout as well. So I feel like if you have anybody who would have to pay for you to, when you pass away, you should do them the honor of giving them this this gift, right?
Yes.
And especially for newcomers, what I find especially for newcomers is people want to be flown back home to be buried. And I don't think
Yes.
people really know how much that
How
costs.
expensive that is. Yep.
Dying here is expensive. Imagine now sending the body home. Right now they say that the average funeral plots, just the plots to put your body in, is $20,000. It can be around $20,000.
Yep. Yep.
Who has $20,000 just laying around to go bury someone? This is why we see a lot of GoFundMe's in our community.
Yeah.
This is why a lot of crowdsourcing. There's nothing wrong with crowdsourcing, but it does present it's a burden on other people when they have to come up with $20,000 like this just to bury someone.
And it's somewhat avoidable.
Yes, it's very avoidable. Depending if you're very young. Term life insurance can be like $20 a month. It can be I got mine at age 28, so I was a little late to the game, but I'm glad I have it now because I don't want to leave anybody with any burden if I were to pass away. And again, we're not doing any juju. We're not saying that you're going to pass away, but it's just smart financial planning. And if you say you want to build wealth, then you want to build wealth for you and your future generations. You don't want to leave them in the hole, because what happens a lot is that you're someone that spouse passes, the surviving spouse has to sell the house because they cannot afford to live there, or they have to downsize, right? And then imagine you're grieving. You're also trying to see, how can I make rent this month? Like, it's just a lot. Leave your family with a financial fortress where they can survive and just focus on grieving. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Especially for people with kids, right?
Yes.
Especially if they're young kids who have not been through school already, who will need to go to school. You don't want your children to grow up in hardship or anything like that. And so all of this is, and there's life insurance too if you die, but then you can also develop a critical illness, right? Cancer is trending, right? diabetes, stroke, heart attack, different things. A lot of people having to do bypass surgery.
Yeah.
There's critical illness insurance as well to protect you and your family in the event that you develop one of the critical illnesses, to be able to afford care and to afford to survive. To then have to worry about life insurance, of course. Disability insurance. There's all kinds of types of insurance that I think that, like you said, as newcomers take for granted. Travel insurance. My grandmother had cancer and died in New York. She was not a resident of the US. She's a Jamaican.
No.
They took her there to see if they could get better care for her. No insurance, no nothing. And in 1988, sorry. That is it? 1998. That's a $50,000 bill, US. right?
Mm-hmm.
That $50,000 in 1998 is a lot of money. A lot
That's
of
a
money.
lot. A
A
lot.
lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Where that nobody was prepared. And like you
Yeah.
said, even just a fall could ruin you
It can ruin
financially.
everything. And also, I think you need to, again, if you have children, you just want to protect them. You want to be
Yes.
able to, like, critical illness. For those that don't know, like, let's say you develop cancer and you're still alive, so life insurance doesn't help, right?
No.
But you can't work maybe, or you are, yeah,
You need
it
treatment.
will, exactly, you need treatment. Treatment, although we have OHIP in Canada or in Ontario or
Yeah.
other provincial, there's lots of other costs that people don't account for. First, the loss
Yep.
of income. Okay. That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Second, it's the park. You know how much it costs to park every day at a hospital? It is crazy. Then there's bandages, like a lot of things aren't covered that we don't
Covered.
know
Yep.
about. We think everything is covered.
Medication. Yep.
Medication. Yes. So people are paying thousands of dollars out of pocket per month when they have
Yes.
critical illness a critical illness. So personally, I decided to get both critical illness and
Yes.
I also got life insurance so that I can protect anybody who, again, is depending on my income to maintain the standard of living. And it also gives you the peace of mind that, like, if I am sick, I don't have to rush to get back to work because I just got this. I think mine is $150,000 payment that I'll get if anything happens. And again, we're not saying you need to go and get a $500,000 policy. We're not saying that, but you could get a $50,000 policy to at least cover your death, your
Final
end of
expenses.
life, exactly, final expenses.
Yes. Yes. And what I do in my practice is do like a holistic needs assessment. So at least you know how much you need, right? And then you can work up to affording it. You can start with some add on or get more insurance later on, but definitely at least know, right? So I can tell you how much insurance you need based on things that you have, your financial independence number, you want to retire, how much money do you actually need? A lot of people don't know how much money they need when they retire and stuff like that, right? So it's definitely a conversation that you want to have with a professional to take these things into consideration. Travel insurance, even for temporary residents, students, it's not nice. It's not nice
at all.
Perfect. So yeah, I mean, we've covered quite a bit of content pillars, money and all of that stuff. So there's making money, investing money, protecting your family with all this money that you have, which is very, very important. Reni, you have been very helpful and you're not full of knowledge and full of wisdom. So congrats, Dad and Mom, for the work that you've done. And congrats to you too for actually listening and implementing and taking the care to, one, do it for yourself, but also help others. So you have an accountability group. You can talk a little bit about that and tell us how you help to keep people accountable.
Yes. So I have an accountability group called Don't Go Broke Collective. And essentially, I help you to not go broke, trying to live your best life. So in the group, we have 2 monthly live financial freedom sessions. And in those sessions, one of them is always about investing. So I teach that lesson, or my dad teaches a lesson as well. So he comes in every few months to teach a lesson about investing. And I will take you from not knowing how to invest at all to actually being comfortable evaluating and choosing individual stocks and ETFs that you should purchase. So that is the goal of the group. And again, it's a monthly workshop so that you don't feel overwhelmed on how to achieve the goal. It's like very step by step. It's holding your hand along the way. Then we also have another session every month with an expert. So next month, for example, is our real estate building month. Building wealth through real estate month. So I have a mortgage broker who's coming to talk to us, and I also have a real estate agent who's coming to talk to us. So in one session, they will talk to us about buying your first home, everything you need to know about buying your first home, and what a mortgage actually is, because I think a lot of people don't really know what it entails. And the second session that we have is about buying an investment property, because they are very different purchases that you're making.
Yeah.
So yeah, like every single month we have a new session. I think it's a very great group. We're at 200 members right now.
Nice.
And we also keep you accountable to your financial goals. So what you do is you're going to declare, like, this is my goal for the year. I want to invest $10,000. And then every single month you're going to send us a screenshot showing us how much you have invested so we can keep you accountable in that way as well. But yeah,
cool.
I can't wait. It is great. And I would love to see you there if you would like to join.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know, like I said, a couple of people that are in there. So I'm looking there's a session that you have coming up. So I'm kind of looking forward to that session. So I'm sure you'll see me in there. I forget what the topic is, but you did mention it's on LinkedIn. But thank you so much, Reni, for spending the time with us today. I think the message here is that you don't build wealth in Canada by accident. You don't just show up here and become a permanent resident and all of a sudden there's a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. It is by design. It is by accountability. It's by being smart with your decisions, not just about money, but also about protecting your money. And so definitely check out Don't Go Broke Trying Collective. The link is going to be linked below. And also if you need some help getting insurance in place or setting up TFSAs or RRSP, RESPs, or DSPs, then I can definitely help you out there. As a financial broker, I am licensed to do those things for you. But at minimum, if you just want to get an idea of what amount of money that you need to retire, what amount of money you need to insure your life, insure what you have, that's something I can do. You will at least walk away with more information to make more informed decisions. Everything is going to be linked in the description below. Please follow Reni the Resource. You have 2 channels, Reni the Resource and XO Reni. Which one?
No, I have XO Reni and Don't Go Broke Trying. Those are my 2 channels that I have.
Okay. Right. Yes. So then follow both of them, right? Yes. They're going to be linked below. And you can also find Reni on LinkedIn, very active on LinkedIn. And I think on all social media platforms, to be honest, right?
Yeah, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, every platform that you just type in XO Reni or Reni the Resource. It should pop up either way.
Perfect. Any last words before we land the plane, Reni?
Yes, I just want to say thank you for having me, Christina. This was great. And also for everyone, you can build wealth, but as Christina said, it has to be an intentional act, but you do not have to start with a lot. You can start from where you are. And I truly believe that anybody is able to change their life in a year, but you just have to be dedicated and put in the work in order to do it. But you can do it. You can definitely do it.
Perfect. That's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. If this was helpful for you, please hit that like button and share it with one other person that you know. We all know another immigrant. And if this was helpful and you want to see more like this, subscribe to So Back in Immigrants and XO Reni and Don't Go Broke Trying. And I'll see you in the next video.